Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of National Gallery of Modern Art, Bengaluru, under the aegis of Ministry of Culture, Government of India, I warmly welcome you all for this very special session. We are truly honored to host today's talk titled Arts Administration and Cultural Policy, Global Cases and the Integration of Arts and Museum Administration into Fine Arts Pedagogy, an area of critical importance in today's rapidly evolving global art landscape. It's my pleasure to introduce a distinguished academic and thought leader in the field of arts, administration, and cultural policy, Dr. Divya Janardhan. Dr. Divya Janardhan serves as the Assistant Professor of Arts Administration, Management, and Advocacy, and in the pardon me, and is the area head of Arts Administration at the Talkington College of Visual and Performing Arts. Her work lies at the dynamic crossroads of arts management, cultural policy, and the creative industries, addressing timely and complex topics like policymaking, stakeholder engagement, media induced tourism, and the economic impact of the arts. As an educator, she brings innovation to the classroom through case based learning, field experience, and interdisciplinary insight, teaching both graduate and undergraduate students in arts, administration, and cultural policy. Dr. Janardhan's research has been recognized by major international associations such as AIMAC, STP and A, and ACEI, and she is an invited contributor to peer reviewed journals and global conferences. She was also part of the inaugural Global Mentorship Cohort Foundation, founded by the National Endowment for the Arts, NEA, a trained Carnatic classical vocalist and visual artist. She brings lived experience in the arts to her academic work, adding both depth and authenticity to her research and teaching. Please join me in welcoming a true advocate for the arts and a champion of creative policy and leadership, Dr. Divya Janardhan on stage.
Much, Darshan Kumar, for that very generous introduction. It's an honor to be here. To be here. There you go. That is the promotional material for today's talk. Um, yeah, so are here today to talk about arts administration and cultural policy. But before that, I must say that it's such an honor to be here and in many ways full circle. Um, I would say I'm a daughter of Bangalore. I grew up in the city. I went to both the educational institutions that flank this institution, Sophia High School and Ramal College. Um, and it's just a rare opportunity to come back to one's own city and talk about one's work. I would first of all like to thank the team here at NGMA, Director Priyanka Mary Francis, the curatorial team. Mr. Darshan Kumar was very much in touch with me to make sure that everything was on track today. Also, the other staff, the curatorial team. And importantly, my artistic mentor, Mr. Balan Nambiar, who has rescheduled his international travel, he and his wife with that, so that they can attend my talk today. Honestly, he was one of those early advocates for me to go into this line. And I am lucky that my family is here. Um, even my children said, "It's all right. We will listen to your lecture." So thank you, kids. But they are another big reason I am where I am today. So let's get started. We are talking about uh, global cases, different examples connected to uh, field practice. That is where I was consulting or working with different organizations. The teaching that I do and the research that I do, all related to arts administration and cultural policy. When I say arts administration, um, I would say it's an equivalent term to cultural. administration, which is what you hear more here in the UK and Europe. Of course, America likes doing things a little differently, and we say arts ad, but it's one and the same thing. So today, this will be the structure of our of this talk. I was going to say our discussion. We will have a discussion component. I will give an overview of the big, large areas. It's kind of the shortest possible way to introduce them. And then we will go into arts, some pedagogical examples, course creation. How do you get a course on the road? How do you redesign a curricula? And I will keep weaving examples in and out of all of this, and then go more into research work that I've been doing, especially case examples of. And I will. The today's talk is going to lean visual, though I work with all other organizations also. Today's talk will lean visual, so that, of course, we are at the National Gallery of Modern Art. So, but it is a very interdisciplinary, and then lots of time, hopefully, for discussion. So please write down your questions and any thoughts you may have, and we can have a good discussion at the. So a little bit about me. I think Mr. Darshan Kumar gave a good overview. I basically take care of most things arts administration at the Talkington College of Visual and Performing Arts at Texas Tech University. I have a PhD in cultural policy and arts management from the Ohio State University, which is the oldest program in North America and one of the oldest and most established programs in general. I also have a graduate minor in public policy and management from the John Glenn College of Public Affairs. And I have a Master of Science in Arts Administration from Drexel University in Philadelphia. I do, I guess I enjoy doing many different types of research, but broadly, I can be classified as an urban arts researcher, the manifestation of arts and culture in urban spaces, how policy supports them. I also do, this is a newer area which I'm excited about, which is media induced tourism, also fondly known as set jetting, and policy and practice implications related to that. My dissertation research was on cultural equity policy. So that is how can we equitably divide up resources for the arts and cultural sector. Um, Interestingly, my master's research was, yes, unsurprisingly, was also related to um, the arts and culture. It was my master's thesis was on the national level autonomous museums of India and the management challenges that they face and strategies for improvement. And I will give a small snapshot of that. That was a research where I spoke to both Indian cultural leaders and I spoke to leaders in USA and Switzerland. I also have done some work on knowledge centric arts organizing. So, what is knowledge centricity and how can we apply it to the running of cultural institutions? I'm on the editorial board of the American Journal of Arts Management and the Notebooks on the Economics of Culture, which is a European journal based out of the University of Sevilla. And I am a board member of the Social Theory, Politics, and Arts Conference, which is one of the oldest and most prestigious conferences in the realm of cultural policy and arts management. So I guess that's how we contextualize today's talk, and you're going to get pieces of all these experiences that I've had over the past 17 years. Um, we will skip some of this, but yes, as I was introduced earlier, I oversee the MFA program as area head of arts administration. I oversee the MFA program in arts administration. I rebuilt all the courses of the MFA program, courses such as marketing the arts, funding the arts, advocacy, and I created at the college level a new course, which is a signature course on special topics in arts administration. We go quite broad and quite. Um, and in terms of one of the immediate assignments I was given as soon as I joined Texas Tech, it was to build a new arts administration doctoral program, a doctoral track. And that was an exciting endeavor. There were three programs in the USA at the doctoral level, and I studied at one, and I researched the other two, including reflected back on the one that I got my PhD at, and I built this track. And my students are starting coming in August. So that's really exciting. It is only the fourth doctoral program in arts administration in America. And I am fortunate to claim the status of being America's first PhD holder in arts administration and cultural policy area. And I'm so glad to be here. This is just fulfilling kind of moment for me. And thank you all for making time on a Thursday evening. So let's look at an overview. Lots of words there, but I will go over basically the last sentence. And this is the definition given by the Association of Arts Administration Educators, which is America's de facto pedagogical kind of field um, advisory and research kind of advisory organization. They run an excellent conference every year. So arts administrators or cultural administrators bridge the artistic world and the creative industries with applied managerial, financial, and programmatic skills. Now, this is important. So these are two apparently diverse and divergent worlds, right? There are the managers on one side and there are the artists on the other. And sure, there are people who have managed right from the beginning, but arts administrators are trained to bridge these two worlds. It definitely has a nonprofit focus, and because they bridge these two worlds, they become the connective tissue of the cultural sector. And I must say that what I see in India is strong potential to develop educational pathways so we can train a highly specialized group of administrators, cultural administrators. And I see potential at the diploma level, at master's, bachelor's, and perhaps even doctoral level. And I would like to put a plug here that if any of you has ideas and contacts, I would be happy to advise, support, and help create such programs because that's what I've been doing in the United States. And yes, I had a meeting just 4 5 days ago with the curator of the Royal Opera in Mumbai, which has been beautifully restored. And it is the only surviving opera in potentially South Asia, but definitely in India. And this is exactly pretty much what he said was similar to this slide, that we have such amazing cultural treasures and artistic potential and artists doing amazing work. But what we need to formalize and strengthen is arts and cultural administration. So hopefully the next time I'm here, we have some traction on. Um, let's look at cultural policy. These are two examples, or rather, sorry, two definitions from scholars in the field. We have Schuster and Ruth Rentschler. Coincidentally, Dr. Rentschler announced her retirement today, and I said, Dr. Rentschler, I am actually presenting your definition in this talk. And I asked her if she could log in via live stream. Ruth, if you're here, hello. But cultural policy, in sum, it is the activities that the government does to support the cultural sector. Very simple definition, but let's look at Dr. Rentschler's definition. Cultural policy then involves governmental strategies and activities that promote the production, dissemination, marketing, and consumption of the arts. So yeah, so that's just a super short introduction. Cultural policy is a large field, and I'm going to give just a sliver of that field as an example of what we call as arts advocacy in the United States. So in my title, I'm also a professor of arts advocacy. And advocacy is the act of persuasively communicating the value of the arts to policy and decision makers so that we have ongoing support, yeah, for the arts and culture. And also, not just support. If we are supported, then we can provide accessible experiences to a wider community. these in these pictures, you may spot me. Let's go to the picture on the top left corner, and that is me at the Texas State Advocacy Day. Arts Advocacy Day. Advocacy happens at the state level in America and also at the national in terms of official days. Of course, you can advocate at any time to your policymaker at any level, including the municipal government. And below, it's a very small picture, but that's me and my classmates. Many years ago, we went to DC for the annual Arts Advocacy Day at the Capitol, and we met senators and congresspeople and we were promoting it. And when I went to DC, I was advocating for greater support for international artists to facilitate visas to visit the United States. So there could be many topic areas. But that is one small introduction and one component of cultural policy. Um, Now let's go into all those examples and cases. I have broadly divided into pedagogy, research, and practice. Pedagogy covering the courses I teach and design, research and practice. But in the interest of time, I have combined pedagogy and practice. But when you think about our field, it's so interdisciplinary. And practice, whether it is examples from, say, the dance sector, the museum sector, the operas, the theater, the performing arts sector, everything informs each other and it informs what we teach as educators in the classroom. So, one of the things I did immediately after joining in was to kind of do a restart, I would say a rejuvenation of the MFA program. I describe this as a Carnegie R1 academic institution. Tech University is one of the R1 institutions in America. Carnegie R1 are highest research institutions. It's a very difficult qualification to maintain. Which means that it filters down to we have to have very rigorous curricula and research standards. Um, so let's take a quick look at Texas Tech University's MFA in Theater Arts Administration program. Um, yeah, this is just a snapshot of our homepage, and I will read out the keywords because the font not sure that's very visible. But in brief, our arts administration track, the MFA is a terminal degree. So if you want to become a practitioner, not a full-time researcher, you can definitely go for the MFA. It is an intense 60 credit 3-year degree, and it trains students in theory and practice, and we give them a lot of opportunities to learn the current trends in the field. We make sure a lot of the field professionals come and meet with our students. They also do very curated internships. And now, how this program is designed is it's discipline anchored. So you can see broadly, you can see two types of graduate programs at the master's level. It could be an MFA program like this, which is grounded in theater. So my arts administration students take theater courses, but they also take a lot of arts administration courses with me. And of course, the way I train them, they could get that theater specialization, but they could go and work in a museum. I equip them, excuse me, I equip them with the skills they need. But they do things there, such as managing, directing, dramaturgy, box office management, and they finish all that and they come to me and study arts admin. Hello, yeah. So that's one way to design a program. You could do a similar program, say museum focused. So there is a museum administration program. I know Drexel has one. Drexel also has a general arts management program, just like Carnegie Mellon and Ohio State, where it's the other way around. Turn this on its head, where the focus is more on arts administration, and then students are introduced to the discipline. And yeah, there are two ways to do this broadly. There are many iterations, but again, the font is small, but let me look. This is our degree plan for the MFA. All students know, doesn't matter what specialization. They could be theater, arts administration specialization, design students. They could be acting, directing students. So those are all the other specializations. They all need to take the first three courses, which is performance lab, arts in the community, which I teach that also, which is I teach students to go and do service-based learning with arts organizations. And then are the theater courses. So the design students will have their design courses after that. Theater courses such as management planning and theater, seminar and theater research methods. Then they come to me. It's not really in that order, but we've divided it for the sake of clarity. And then they take marketing, funding the arts, advocacy, special topics. They also do specialized internships. Now, what I did was I redesigned besides redesigning the courses, I redesigned the internship structure. Initially, there were 4 internships, which is it's a lot. So now they have some flexibility to choose smaller number of internships, but they can do more intensive internships. So if a student comes to me with a big project, says, I want to do, say, a 6 credit or 9 credit internship, we can make that happen. I also made sure students have more options to take electives. At this point, they can take 4 elective courses. Cultural management is um, a highly interdisciplinary, which means if a student, say, wants to become a financial manager or let's say fundraising, over there, fundraising is a big thing. Here, I would say maybe financial management expert. They can take some courses with our management school in addition. So they leave my program with the skills necessary. They are equipped. Now, the other thing I did as soon as I entered was start working on building the fourth PhD track in America. And that was a very interesting experience. Uh, so, yeah, again, very briefly, while that is discipline focused, the PhD track is highly interdisciplinary. And so there are foundation courses that our doctoral students take. Doesn't matter if they're specializing in art, music, theater, arts administration, or interdisciplinary arts. There's a five doctoral programs. They have to take those foundational courses, and then they start specializing in arts administration, and then they do further specialization. For instance, a student like me, I wanted to do some cultural policy related work. So I went to the Glenn College of Public Affairs in Ohio State University, and I took enough courses there to get a minor. But importantly, I understand the language of public policy and hence cultural policy. So, one of the big tasks I had was to work across the university with different departments and tell them, we are starting this degree. Can we partner with you? Can our students come and take courses? So, and it was all very positive. And so we have our degree, our students starting in fall, and they're excited. So that's 2 examples of how at the graduate level a new track, a program was created, and a program was kind of rejuvenated. Now let's look at how some examples of how I integrate visual or museum arts administration into graduate curricula. I use a lot of field examples because I always tell my students we are working in service of the field. We are not ivory tower graduates here holding a degree and feeling um, very smug about that, right? The objective of your degree is you go and work and you help the field. So here are just some examples. How can we work the field into the classroom? Because it seems the borders can seem a bit much, but our whole point is that we make those borders meld into each other. One idea is weekly intensives. So here I have a snippet of my syllabus, and it's basically visual arts organization management focused. So it's a cultural administration, but for visual arts organized. And we that week we focused on the famous Tate Gallery, and we focused on Clay Studio. Now it's very interesting, these 2 examples. Now the Tate is a collection, as we all know, a collection of 4 major art galleries in the UK, including the Tate Modern. And what they did in this case is they envisioned a fifth gallery, metaphoric fifth gallery, or having strong digital presence. Their digital presence was their fifth gallery. They treated it as that fifth component, and they hired a head of digital transformation. They used multiple immersive experiences, activities, and online community. What they did was they embraced a digital mindset that these cultural administrators decided they need to move with the times and embrace this complete digital mindset. They're starting with the reworking of their website, which went from a catalog model to a highly immersive kind of experience. And a new website was launched in 2012. They shifted away from the text heavy website to personalized online experiences, and they digitized their vast collection. They did very interesting things, including doing a Minecraft special where people could go and build their worlds. They called it Minecraft Fate Worlds. Very interesting case there. So look at what cultural administration did there. And now I can see AI kind of coming in more. Um, then, it's an interesting tool to work with. We need more data, so how to work with it. But yeah, I can see organizations beginning to use it. The Clay Studio. The Clay Studio is a beloved ceramics gallery in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And they noticed that what they do is they run like say courses, certificate programs, and they want it to be accessible to everyone in Philadelphia. And what they noticed is most of the people who showed up were, say, spouses of their board members. Now that's a very limited group, and they started doing many different. The marketing team there, they started changing some variables, the time of the classes, the price point, and the length. That is one aspect that changed. They also they actually when they changed the time, they started seeing new groups, new audience groups coming in, such as young mothers with children. Uh, so they started changing their programming, see how things one thing feeds into another. But it became a more vibrant space. And then they also, what they did was do some unique special programs, such as the social evenings for couples and also working professionals. Basically, the sum total of this case is that this case is by the Wallace Foundation. And Wallace Foundation cases are available for you to read across. They're free. They're called Wallace Cases for the Classroom. Um, and the sum of all these efforts is that they started seeing new faces, new groups of people attending. That's what's important as a nonprofit or a non-governmental organization. You are a service, in many ways, a service organization. You serve the community. Another way we integrate examples is we look at function areas. Function areas are like strategic planning, programming, financial management, operations and administration, community relations, all sorts of things. So, what I did, for instance, was in my funding the arts class, we had a fundraising appeal letter, right? Which is basically part of the annual appeal, which is the most popular campaign that's done by most cultural organizations in the at least in the American model, and I believe it's done here also. My students, I encourage them to select from a variety of disciplines. So some of them chose visual arts organizing, and that kind of changes your letter a little bit. You start going from talking about subscriptions, which is a very performance art model, to memberships and different kinds of museum experiences. But it didn't stop there. What I did was I said, you will first write your human letter, then go to ChatGPT, Claude, I don't care which LLM you use, but you feed in instructions and write an AI generated letter, and then bring both in, and they had to discuss and debate which was better. And guess which one was voted as better. Any guesses? Oh, sorry, non-GPT is correct. P- the human brain still wins, but it was an interesting exercise. Uh, Anyway, so what I do is, besides that, there are many ways to do this, but we always, in my classroom, we balance, of course, it's an American graduate program. So we have the US based kind of conceptual training, but I bring in a lot of international examples because at the end of the day, we are training globally savvy cultural managers, cultural administrators who are hopefully sensitive to the different practices, management practices around the world, and also the cultural traditions, which is something we also talk about in the classroom. Let's talk about some examples of work I have done with different museums. These are examples I bring into the classroom of how cultural administration helped each of these organizations. The Delaware Art Museum. When I first met them in 2007, they were going through a strategic planning process. And this was on the heels of a renovation that they had done, which received kind of mixed reactions from the community, because some of the community felt, oh my God, you're spending so much money. And, but, they needed those renovations. At the same time, they realized they probably need to have some community buy in. And the strategic planning process also was about what does the community need. And there are two components that are very important here. And I was part of the volunteer kind of consultant group there. Two components are important. Strategic planning is the backbone of a cultural organization. So, as a cultural administrator, you absolutely want to have a strategic plan, and not just a plan that you make and hang up and frame on the wall, but a plan, a living document that you revisit every 4 to 5 years and see what are the goals of my organization? Am I fulfilling those? And also, am I staying sustainable? Am I breaking even? All those things. Um, Soon after we finished that, the other important thing was community buy. I think it was very important that the museum was trying to kind of understand what the community wanted, and that is something I always tell um, my students, that you always want to know who you're working for and who you want to see more of, who's not at the table also, right? At the in your museum, in your space, your gallery, who's coming in, who's not. Keep an eye on that. So they did that important work at Delaware Art. After we finished that, they wanted me to stay on to look at their marketing, and in that, kind of take a look at their group tour programs. So one of the things I did was look at do I researched all their departments. I wanted to know just where things stand in the museum, internal stakeholders, and I also and curators, everyone, the membership department, everyone I spoke to, just to find out, get a pulse of the organization, understand yourself before you understand the community. And then I spoke to the Convention and Visitors Bureau, other museums, and basically the sum total of all of this was we developed. I guess developed a plan for a kind of a revamped, what they called adult group tour program. They also were interested in being inclusive of the elderly community. There's something called the Elder Hostel program where senior citizens come in, and we wanted to make sure that it's a comfortable and welcoming experience and meaningful experience for them. But it was open to the target audience was mostly adults of any age, and we won a grant there. And grant writing is another skill that cultural administrators have to learn there in the USA. And we have grant writing intensives in my program. Okay, at the Philadelphia Museum of Art in Philadelphia, the crown jewel of Philadelphia, and in many ways a flagship organization, Museum of the United States of America. I worked with the Membership and Visitor Services Department, and the head of the department, she basically said, "Okay, I need you to figure out how to get more students in, ideally student membership." Now, this almost sounds like an oxymoron, because when we think about who is the who are the groups that purchase memberships, anyone who would purchase memberships? Not students. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's unusual, right? It's usually salaried employees, families, um, business people, especially they get all these corporate kind of, there are agreements sometimes they get to museums and like that. And I thought, oh my goodness, okay, it's a challenge accepted. And it involved a lot of market research, another skill that we teach in our cultural administration program. How do you understand your market? And there are some large excellent universities in Philadelphia, including the University of Pennsylvania, where Wharton is, and um, Rexel, Temple, and I ran a survey. And I wanted to hear from the students what they thought. And we came up with okay, we can do a student brand ambassador program, which is where we train students from strategically from these universities, and they go in and talk about the benefits of a very affordable membership, very heavily discounted membership. The objective of this was to make sure that students come in more and stay more. Students usually visited and they would just sometimes they wouldn't even visit, and if they did, you would see them and you would not see them again. So that was the objective, and they implemented this. So that's another interesting example of what cultural administration can. With the Holocaust Museum, Houston, this was during my doctoral research. What they were doing was they wanted to make their space more accessible, and by accessible, it would be for in general the disabled community. So they did their team there, their cultural administration team. They did a lot of work to include visual supports, and also make the space sensorily friendly for those, say, on the autism spectrum. So they also did something which surprisingly no other museum had done to that extent, was to make their space entirely bilingual. And I can see that having a lot of implications here. Um, and I think we are pretty good in that. Uh, I have to go walk through the galleries, but I think I see efforts to make content available in more than one language. Bilingual there is basically English and Spanish. And Houston, if you're familiar, it has one of the largest Latino populations, a lot of Mexican American community besides other South American Latino Hispanic community. So another way, how do we make our students, or in general, how do we make things more field relevant? We couple examples or cases with visits from field professionals. So the pie chart there, don't worry about the numbers, but look at the largest two segments. They are 35 and 35%, about 9 class sessions each, so 18 sessions. This is a unusual course of mine. It is the marketing course, and in which I have 9 arts administration, cultural administration cases, real examples from the field, which we discuss in detail. And we brought in people from organizations. So we discuss, we debate, maybe students go and do an assignment. And then the professionals come in from the organizations, for instance, the Pacific Northwest Ballet in Seattle and River Oaks Chamber Orchestra, Houston. The River Oaks Chamber Orchestra, or ROCO as they are known as now, they also did a partnership with, and we did more research and development of the case study, uh, of a case study. But what I saw was incredible gains in learning, in engagement, student engagement, critical thinking, and also just conceptual grasp when you go from something that's you read to a discussion with someone from the organization. And of course, assignment to kind of tie it all together. Let's look at some examples from the research that I've done of visual and some other arts organizations. Rocco kind of comes in the segue, but we co-authored a case with Rocco. Um, Basically, me and the managing director, we wrote a case of Rocco trying to rebrand themselves. So their cultural administrators at Rocco were trying to go through a marketing rebranding initiative, and then uh, the other problem was they felt a bit disconnected from the Houston community. So Rocco is located in a historically very rich, somewhat elite community called River Oaks. And the whole case was about we're doing all this, we're trying, but why aren't we able to make those connections? Then the students discuss. So we raise all those questions in the end, and then students discuss. And amazing the kind of ideas and suggestions they come up with. So every year when I run this case, I send information to Roku, and Roku also sends their managing director either in person or through via Zoom to meet with my students. The beautiful partnership, the win-win for my students and for the organization. So while we're on that topic, I'd like to say that we have a shortage of cases of work done in the global south, and definitely about the good work that is happening in India. So if any of you is interested or is connected with someone who would like to write about your organization, I'm happy to advise, collaborate, partner with them, because we have a shortage. I also sit on another editorial board where we are trying to develop more cases for teaching in cultural management, cultural administration classrooms. And right at the bottom there is the case. That's a different paper that was released on my on the course that I taught with the 9 cases. If any of you wants to see how such a course is created, I have the full course calendar and description of syllabus and exactly what I did. I share all of that in that paper. If you Google up my name, and it should come up, but either way, maybe slides will be shared, or just email me and I can share them. Okay, here is another more recent example. Uh, so the Louise Hopkins Underwood Center for the Arts, LUCA, fondly known as LUCA, is Lubbock, Texas. So Texas Tech University is located in Lubbock, Texas. It's a fairly comparatively important um, city in the West Texas. Uh, uh, People often think of the other mega cities, but Lubbock is extremely important in the region that it is. And Texas Tech is a large university in service of the region. So in July 2024, LUCA, which is the city's flagship visual arts organization, they have beautiful works and galleries. And they also run the city's first Friday art trail, which interestingly, everyone thought it would be in a big city in Texas, but it is Luca's first Friday and Lubbock's first Friday that is Texas's largest monthly arts and cultural event. And in 2024, due to an external event, Luca lost most of its municipal funding for First Friday. And that was like the backbone, that funding. And what we did, professors, and we are professors from different departments across the university, 7 of us, we came together and we said, okay, this is the problem we'd like to investigate, because we know that the arts and culture contribute to the creative economy, and the creative economy contributes to the overall economic health of a nation, of a city, a state, and the nation. So we said, let us investigate what is the role of Luca, what is the role of the First Friday Arts Trail, and the role of the visual arts and crafts to the local creative economy. So we have done a survey. We're going to do focus groups and in-depth interviews September onwards. And the hope is that we can secure data that can inform our municipal policy makers. Now, this is an example of cultural policy in action. So data like this supplied to policymakers can hopefully inform them while they're thinking about how to divide up their cultural budget for the next year. So stay tuned for that. Um, Also, this is a new and interesting area called as set jetting, which I'm doing research on. Set jetting, or film or movie-based tourism. Also, not just films and movies. Sometimes it's about travelers visiting locales featured in their favorite books or movies. Is a very exciting kind of phenomena that is global. And what I did along with my research colleagues, we did a state of the art literature review, semi-systematic review. Very, it's a, it's there's a whole process to it. And then we created a literature data set and analysis. We also are doing network analysis, or how publications are cited and everything. But importantly, what we found is there are many implications of set jetting or destination kind of tourism for local destination tourism policy and practices. That is, the policymakers and the tourism managers in the destination location. We also unearthed a collection of issues, including displacement, where the local tourism is displaced by the set jetting tourism. Um, we also found issues around inauthenticity. I think many of us are aware of how uh, locations, destinations are portrayed in inaccurate ways, sometimes exoticized um, and appropriated. And then we also found issues related to low budget deals that especially mid-sized and small cities are entering due to certain not very ethical practices by um, the media industry. We are aiming for an edited volume on cultural tourism policy where we will explore this more. Right now, there's a paper being reviewed, but besides that, but we want to look at specific issues via case examples. For instance, like this one. Okay, any of you familiar with what's going on? Ah, I see some nodding heads. I'd love to hear from you. Take a guess, maybe. Think that's basically what happened. The Louvre, can you imagine? The world's most iconic museum shut down its doors. This happened barely 3 weeks ago, and it was just too much. There has been a global surge in tourism to destination locations. And the Louvre staff are overworked, understaffed. There were not enough bathrooms. The air conditioning couldn't keep up. Conservators are stressed out that the paintings, including the iconic Mona Lisa, is under threat. They shut down the museum. And something to do with maybe the fear of missing out, especially after COVID. People want to really pack in those experiences. Well, this might be a case that we will examine, at least one of the cases. But as a finale, I'm going to give a snapshot of the research I did back in 2009, 9 and 10, and I'm curious how things have changed. Of the national level autonomous museums of India, the management challenges and strategies for performance. I'm only showing a piece of the research, not showing the other half where I spoke to professionals outside of India. But these were the museums that participated. It was a qualitative analysis, in depth interviews with directors of these museums: Lalit Kala Academy, Nehru Memorial Museum and Library, the Asiatic Society, and Salarjung Museum. These were the museums that were able to get back to me. And these were the days before social media, before smartphones. So it was a bit of a challenge scheduling these, and before Zoom. So these had to happen the traditional long distance, international, very expensive phone call. So briefly, and I will read it out because I'm not sure if everyone can see way back there. The management challenges are conservation challenges. No surprise there. I think everyone, including the Louvre, are struggling. Funding challenges, difficulty in understanding the audience because there's quite a diverse audience that comes into. All the directors said anybody can come into through our doors because we are these large national institutions and we're free and we're hopefully accessible. We don't know exactly who we are programming for sometimes. And then the competitive landscape. Most museums were not aware of who their competition is. They felt that they are pretty much monolithic and monopoly organizations. And some museums, though, were collaborating with others. And importantly, dearth of specialists. And we're going to focus just on this point in the interest of time, but I will keep the slides. We can come back to it. Let's go to dearth of specialists. There is a dearth of adequately qualified work in the national museums. This majority of the people working, as reported by the directors, were generalists rather than specialists. And but at that time there was new staffing policy to recruit staff with museum specific skills. So and then there was a shortage of staff training. Some organizations were doing seminars and training sessions. And then there was a certain feeling of staff stagnation and discontent and issues with compensation and salaries. And some museums were trying to incentivize and doing performance based advancement. And this was then. And I think not just, we not, I think this is relevant not just about training people within their discipline areas, whether it's conservation or curatorial area. But what I sensed, and I write about this in my thesis, is there is a need for trained cultural administrators to take care of all those management, financial kind of things, and take some of the pressure off the specialist staff, and so that we can really have those staff and also trained staff for which we need program. So I'm going to kind of conclude that these are strategies for improvement. We can look at it if we need during the discussion, but I'd like to leave you all with some prompts for discussion. What has changed since the research? I am curious, and I would like to hear your opinion on the need for cultural administration programs. Um, what special skills are needed in our cultural sector and in current cultural administration? Do you think it should be the initiative of the private sector or the public sector or both? And any other thoughts or questions you may have. So how can we do this discussion? Are we circulating a microphone? I think there's a microphone going around. So yes, maybe we can start with, do you think anything's changed? Yes, sir.
Hi, I just want to know if when people are having after the Salman Rushdie incident when he was in America when he was someone rushed up on stage and stuff like that, and generally in the press and stuff like that, uh, freedom of speech, freedom of being able to write whatever you want to write, has that changed the whole grammar of the cultural space? Whenever some exhibitions are held and some people decide not to show a particular painting because it might be offensive to a certain bunch of people, and things like that.
Thank you for that question. I think this has been a problem forever, and maybe in our more nationalistic time, yes, maybe these issues are cropping up more. Interestingly, my bachelor's thesis was on art, morality, and religion, and the banning of certain paintings and artwork. Um, I what I've seen is like it's a cycle, it's a pendulum. Issues crop up, go back, um, come up again. Do I have a solution for it? Not really. The issue in America, especially, is when there is controversy around publicly funded artwork for exhibitions. I have an entire history course in that for my students when we talk about our public policy, where there was banning and issues. So yeah, I think that's where it comes in, where taxpayer rupees or dollars, what are they funding? The same time, censoring is sometimes a very subjective. So I wish I had a solution for that. I don't think it has changed. So curious to hear your thoughts. There are some students here. You can ask me more questions. I would love it if you have some counterpoints and we can discuss that. Especially, do you think there is a need for arts and cultural administration programs here in India? And I would like to hear your thoughts. And if I were Mr. Nambiar and the students also, and putting you on the spot, but I do that to my students even in my classroom. If you had an opportunity, would you take one of those courses?
Um, Thanks, Divya. You spoke really very well. And one of the greatest problem for India is lack of administrative the cultural field. There are 7 national level museums in India. All of them are administered by people who have no training whatsoever. Once they get in a job as an assistant professor, assistant curator, or whatever it is, they reach the level of direct by seniority, not because of their merit. And none of them are actually capable of writing a one-page article on any of the sections here. This is the case with these 7 level museums. But it is also the case with many cultural other organizations, including NGMA. And we don't have the specialists. We have only the untrained bunch of staff members. they can't actually with or in India, there are only three institutes which are running very good at in management. One is the Calico Museum in Ahmedabad, second is the Kiran Nadar Museum in Delhi, and there is one in Calcutta, but no other institution. All these people are
Calico Museum,
amateurs.
could you repeat that? Because they couldn't hear the whole thing. Calico Museum?
Calico Museum and Kiran Nadar Museum in Delhi,
Okay.
and one in Calcutta. I completely forgot about full name. So we don't have the trained people in any of other institutions.
So this seems to be a more widespread problem than I assumed. And so would you say not much has changed since my research? I was hoping to maybe some pockets of change, but the problems seem to persist. Um,
Excuse me.
uh-huh. Yes, sir.
I wanted to understand. I mean, I wanted your focus or your understanding on what about administration in art colleges? I mean, it's not administration in pedagogy, but administration in art college.
Mm-hmm.
And of late, we know that the design institutions have taken over. I mean, it's more become significant than the fine art colleges. And also, I noticed, for 2 3 decades, I have never seen MSU University giving an advertisement for calling students for admission. So, what is your take on that?
So I want to clarify that this is about administrators in India, right? At higher education institutions or in general
I mean, it's mostly in cultural institutions and
in
art
cultural.
institution. I mean, administration is both important, right? Right, to run the
Absolutely.
art colleges also. It is a informal, and also is administration important for artists? Once they become an artist, they don't turn back and look at any institutions to take care in an administrative, perspective at all.
There are
Uh,
two, I would say, there are 2 points here that I see. Thank you so much. Great questions. One is, should artists become administrators? They can to survive. They can if they're interested. Maybe they can for both reasons, right? Um, they shouldn't be. Ideally, you shouldn't be worrying about administration. You should focus on your art. And that is why, unless you are so passionate about being your own manager and marketing yourself and raising funds, I believe that this is where those trained cultural administrators come in. And like Mr. Darshan Kumar mentioned, thank you for making me aware that it looks like the design institutions seem to have taken up more airtime now than fine arts institutions. In terms of who leads those institutions, if we go by the European model, the American model, and the Australian model to a large extent, is they are all trained, mostly doctoral degree holding professionals, educators who climb up and become the dean, the associate dean, the provost. If I stay long enough, I will go more into leadership. That's just the way it. I'm curious if there is such a system here for the fine arts colleges. Are they, say, students, fine arts students who climb up, or they are external people who come in? That would be my question.
I mean, we have seen a lot of stalwarts who have come from college fine art. They're the professors or the teachers, who are face of the institutions. I mean, we don't see much artists who are institutionally associated. I mean, they can
Okay.
write well, they can talk well, but they don't look back to institutions, uh, to look at how is the association. There's no association at all. Once they, I mean, as you said, is it important to be associated with the institution in an administrative role? It is not, because it becomes irrelevant. I mean, you focus on your work,
Okay.
then institution doesn't become relevant.
Yeah, I'm also curious what are the other variables? Is it funding? Somehow the design schools have found more sponsors.
I mean, my question is it administration which is becoming more marketing? Or, I mean, we talk about art being commodified, and are we asking the same question?
So I am I guess, if people are doing their job, cultural administrators are doing their job, they are hopefully working in close network with the artists and the curators. Usually in museums, the curatorial department is the strongest, and the marketing department takes marching orders from them. So they usually follow, okay, this is what the exhibition is, this is what we need to showcase. But if it's flipped and someone is just kind of advertising whatever they want, then yeah, it would go towards commodification. Um, I'm curious to learn more about what's going on. Yes, that merits a separate discussion for both of us. But the students here, what did you think about this? Were you familiar with cultural administration before? Were you familiar with these degrees? When you have questions for me, would any of you apply and come over to study? No, no pressure. Just joking. But yeah. Yes, we provide scholarships. All our graduate seats are funded. And actually, at Texas Tech University, it's a very curated kind of group. We are our class size, graduate, not my undergrad class. They are larger. But the graduate level, they range from 5 to maybe 15. So you get a lot of attention from me and the other But yes, yeah, your
Hi,
question.
Divya. Thank you so much. This was very, very insightful.
I'm glad.
So, what I found really interesting about this, especially the first question, what has changed since this research? And obviously, everyone's already raised a couple of, kind of shared what's really going on and what continues to go on here. My question, I have a few questions, but I'll try and keep it a bit short. One is arts administration as a terminology, I think is still relatively, at least in my space, I consider myself an arts and culture manager, but I've not really, understood completely arts administration in the way that you've kind of, shared, which was really interesting. I do want to understand, where do you see arts management then? Is it just a part of the larger arts administration, or do you see it functioning separately, as another route for, aspiring people who want to work in that particular space? That was my first question. Maybe if you want to
Yeah,
first take
sure.
that.
So just give me some context. What is the work that you do and
Yeah.
your name, please?
Yeah, my name is Roshni. I work
Rosh.
with the British Council. I
Wonderful.
actually head their arts and culture programming for
How
India.
what a great institution.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you so
Ah,
much. What I completely resonate with the idea of, when it was mentioned generalists more than specialists, because we're seeing that trend happening a lot more across organizations, where if you've understood management in a basic sense, you can then start working with any organization, including a cultural organization, which I find a little surprising and absurd. In that sense, my background is in the fine arts. I did not learn
excellent.
arts administration.
Excellent.
So, again, the question around artists becoming arts managers seems to also be something that has not changed, at least not since I 13 to 14 years ago. I recently went for an arts management short course that was in India, and what was really fascinating for me was to see so many people who were artists who were trying to understand the management system.
And where was
Because
this course?
it was hosted at the Kerala Museum.
Okay.
It was hosted with Coach,
Okay.
as part of the Arts South Asia, Arts
Nice.
Think South Asia,
Good to
sorry.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are people who are trying to take initiative to share short courses
Yeah.
and make it accessible, because it's not a norm at the moment in
Hmm.
terms of courses or opportunities in India itself. So it almost feels like a privilege to be able to study arts management or arts
Yes, there's
administration,
definitely
only, as she mentioned, a scholarship to be able to do
people
it.
people would say, why don't you do it as a hobby? I was lucky that I was supported by my parents
Yeah,
to pursue the humanities. I had excellent mentors like
yeah.
Mr. Nambiar, and I got to continue. Now let's unpack your question and things that you shared. Thank you for providing the context. One is difference between administration and management. There are different definitions there, but some most often I've seen people use the terms interchangeably. But I feel when it comes to arts management, we're looking more at kind of specific functions inside the organization, and administration becomes a little bit more all encompassing. We're also kind of looking at policy. Honestly, I tell my students, don't sweat it. You can use it interchangeably. Um, in general, cultural administration globally would be the terminology. Specialists over, no, generalists over specialists. Um, what I hear and what I gather, and also my previous research, what I feel is that we are at the earlier stages of this field, and even in the American context, we are a newer field. If business administration was gained traction around the 60s, arts administration gained traction only around the 80s. So it's only around my age. But well, in human years, it's enough. But in fields years, we are formalizing in the United States. So it's nice. I think the context you provided is very interesting. Um, should an artist be an administrator? If that's what they want to do and they're willing to learn the administrative functions, yes, absolutely. And why not? If you look at all the professors in my college, we are all in some way we were or are practicing artists. But we went and got more specialized education. That's where I feel it's important. But if an artist gets wants to be a manager and accesses those courses, hopefully um, not just a workshop, and workshop is great and that initiative is wonderful, but perhaps it could expand to a short-term course, and from there to a diploma, or and then maybe to a longer degree program. Then we have those skills that are necessary. I would say a couple of decades ago, people said, oh my God, MBA is just a fad and things like that. But look at what people with that degree are doing. It's about creating reducing inefficiencies. Do I want to train myself to read the accounts and figure out how to balance the books, or do I want to learn that in school and just come and my college program and just come and apply? So that is kind of in response to your.
Just to add, I would like to kind of understand in India, specifically in the India context, for students here as well, where would one get the opportunity to learn about arts administration apart from going outside of the country? Are you aware of any opportunities or platforms or anything that could support? Because I think there's a huge gap. And the only people I'm seeing really putting that effort in is now more the private sector. The
Yes.
public sector, which technically should be, is going even further, and regressing. So it's an interesting situation we're in because there is a lot more interest in the creative economy in India as well. But there's not enough coming from the public sector. So yeah.
If you do a Google search and ask AI, are there cultural administration programs in India? The answer is no. And I think it's yeah. I can see some people agreeing with me here. Um, uh, I wish I had a program to report, and I would love to help create a program if there is enough will, money, and interest in it. At this point, you will need to travel overseas to get that specialization. And hopefully, you find there are not many of us Indians also doing this. There are more of us in art education, which is completely different, by the way, very important, but very different. Very, very few of us in policy and administration. So, but I can see things change. So, yes, I did spot some private sector initiatives, some short courses, but that's not a degree. But great question. Thank you. Students or others have any questions?
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Amrita. Uh, Not as an art per se, but as a museologist, we have a museology course where in Baroda we used to pursue. There in that course, there are they like everything that you have mentioned in this. everything will be taught there. So in the museum purpose, like we also start from the budget raise and building up the museum and sustainability of the museum. The thing is, like, in India, actually people doesn't recognize that.
Hmm.
Most of the people doesn't know what is museology is first. So in this course, we usually concentrate on the art. So all museums. So the people who has pursued the museology, they can compatible of all the other museums depending on the categories of the museums. So we do learn all these things, but not as an art per se, but it is compatible for every subject. You can implement that.
No,
So
thank you.
and
Um,
then the people who come from out, uh, there is no push for as like after passing out. There is no push anywhere in India. Like they don't even recognize those students. Students has to come out and they have to see the opportunities, take their opportunities, and they have to work on.
but
So
I'm
that is
hearing the systemic problem.
there
It's
is
a
too
larger
much.
problem going
It's
on
very
there.
much.
I think I saw a hand up there, but quickly in response to your, thank you for sharing that. Even if you look at America, for instance, the museum administration kind of some of arts administration's roots can be traced to museum administration. And then they realized that we need people who can go across the sector, highly interdisciplinary. When I train my students, they should be able to go walk into any organization and jump in and be of service. So that would be the first step, but there's a larger issue here: recognition, legitimacy, the word right there, legitimacy. Does our field have legitimacy? This is important qualification you picked up there, but looks like it's a struggle after that, and that should not be the. I think I saw a hand there. Yeah,
I want to continue what Amrita was saying. Like
sure.
she said, uh, all that you have covered has existed in some other format
Mm,
or other in India in terms of pedagogy, like museum studies or museology is a course where we all are taught about fundraising and finances and
excellent.
operations and all of that. This is just a thought that I have, it's not of a question. Is that these words, administration, art management, I'm wondering, are these very neoliberal terms that we are all jumping on this bandwagon of management and arts? Because for example, in India there's also another course called heritage management. Now earlier you would never think of heritage in terms of management, it's always heritage studies, right? So I'm wondering if we are all like jumping into this bandwagon of management and arts administration, and this is just a thought that I had.
I mean, when you think about even, yeah, great question, great points. Like, I would love to have a long discussion on this. Um, right from, say, at least in America, the textbooks refer to the Greek era when the theater, uh, arts, they say arts managers were as old as that, perhaps even older. So it's nothing new. I guess terminology can feel a bit neoliberal. And again, it comes back to legitimacy. So when a field like the cultural sector wanted to formalize, give some kind of structure to its management concept, management functions, it it pretty much looked at the business field, pretty much. So we looked at the MBA, and I won't say that we copied, but I think we drew. Now that was a gaining popularity and legitimacy, so that's how kind of got transposed. Sure, you can say that it's a neoliberalist term, and of course, America has it's a capitalist kind of, and this is not just exclusive to America. It is called cultural administration in other places also. So I don't know if that answers the question, but this is a very nice topic to discuss. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes,
Uh,
sir. One last question.
since you got a bird eye view of India from, I mean, you the both sides, you got a foot in the about every. What is the main reason for the present status quo
The present status quo where? Sorry.
in India? In India,
See, this is where I probably have to come back and do some updated research. But from what I'm sensing between the research I've done, from kind of what I read, what I discuss with leading artistic kind of thought leaders like Mr. Nambiar and others, is that it's a kind of a few different things, such as um, certain lack of priority, and this is there even overseas. Why do we have Arts Advocacy Day? Because we need to go and remind our policymakers that it's important to fund the arts and culture. It's usually the business, the commerce, medical sector that gets attention, and education. So the fact that I'm seeing that some things have not changed is probably just a general attitude. I'm guessing that do your arts and culture on the side as a hobby, whereas it's actually a profession. It merits, especially in our nation with such rich cultural heritage and traditions and phenomenal artists, artistic kind of potential and work. So general attitude, and from what I heard from some of our colleagues here, is there seems to be some lack of initiative from the policy makers side. Um, it's hard. It's hard to get people together, but I don't want to sound doom and gloom. I believe that there is enough and more potential to create. Maybe we begin there. We create a program and we start, and when you create a program, you have to do some of those marketing things. You may have to do partnerships with organizations, internships, which means we have placements for our students, and we kind of take it ground up that way. Some things don't work top down. We have to go bottom up and do it out of maybe private or joint initiative. So I hope there are more changes. I would like to be part of the change. I think we are out of time. Uh, I am happy to chat further with any of you offline. But thank you again for coming. My contact information is here, or I have business cards to give out. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your attendance on a weekday evening and in Bangalore traffic. Thank you all.
So, I recall my teacher telling, art and culture is like a camouflage, and you can use it whenever you want to camouflage many of the things. And I think if we all understand our roles in learning, I mean, what have we learned in college, and what does our passion drive to us? We have to understand we have to be there where we fit in. Otherwise, I think we should have more discussions like that, which will not lead to any of the answers. And for me personally, I think art is something which you cannot teach completely, or you cannot. It is not like a chemistry or a biology. You have a theory and you completely tell and make somebody understand. You leave it somewhere. Like my Kannada teacher, Mr. Raju, always told, we are all teachers who will show you the direction, but you have to head where you have to. So it is not a complete understanding what is administration and what is from the artist perspective, though we had administrators like K.K. Hebar, who was also administrator of Lalit Kala Academy. We have seen some of the very well administrator, and some of the administrators are not supposed to be there, like the K.G. Subramaniam, who also said what to do, how to do, and why it is important, why it is significant. It is also management, being outside and also working inside. I mean, artists like that who also involved in certain things like that. They were also involved in pedagogy, where they also were associated with colleges. They never turned back saying that this is all I create and I sit back. It is not like that. They also looked after certain institutions and education systems because it has to evolve, grow, sustain. So with this, I would like to end up, and I would thank Sri Divya Janardhan ji to come all the way from there, and giving this beautiful insight and very significant insight for India, for us to have more discussions on this, because we have a perspective and to understand whether it is important or not, and to answer and to also make it possible from our end. I have a small token of appreciation from NGMA I would like to thank her. So a small announcement, we have the Caravaggio till 6th, that is the Sunday, and day after tomorrow, that's the 5th, at 5 o'clock, we have Padma Shri Mr. Vasudevo Taranath Kamath, who will be giving a oil demonstration here at 5 o'clock. Yeah, I think it will be a great experience to look at because we don't have much people who do demonstration, which instantly, and that too in the oil. So I request all of you to join us for that. And we have more programs in coming days. I request all of you to kindly join us for the programs following on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you.